This week's episode of The Graveyard Shift is brought to you by Robin P. Robin is a fan of the show, and he suggested this week's featured movie on our Facebook page. Thank you very much, Robin. We really do appreciate the movie suggestion and, of course, your support by listening to the show. It really makes us happy to know that there are some hardcore horror fans out there that actually listen to us. If you'd like to show your support by suggesting a movie for us to cover like Robin did, or by some other way, we're going to tell you how you can do just that at the end of the episode. And with all that being said, let's begin. This is The Graveyard Shift, horror with Sheldon and Mike. Cue the music. Welcome to episode 6 of the Graveyard Shift Horror Podcast, where each week we watch a horror movie and talk about all the things we liked and didn't like, plus some production info and some other fun things. And yes, I said we because working the Graveyard Shift gets kind of lonely. Please say hello to my very own space amoeba, my co-host, Mike.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
Pretty darn good. I got a job, found out it was beneath me, and I quit it. So yay, I have a little bit of money coming to me that will keep me podcasting for one more month.
Well, always look on the bright side, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like your attempt to re-enter the workforce was a bit of a roller coaster.
Well, I have a golden rule when it comes to employment. I should be the idiot. And clearly other people were horning in on my position. And I will not be the small idiot in a big pond of idiots.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I need to protect my position.
Right.
The guy who was training me showed up 20 minutes late, already a slacker move. And then for an hour, he basically pointed out, like, okay, you do this, you mop, you sweep. And you do that, you mop, you sweep, and I'm like, okay, great. And before I could ask, like, where's the vacuum for this floor, or do I have to take one from the basement, he'd fucked off. And I texted him, like, okay, well, if you're around here somewhere, can you tell me where stuff is? No. And then for 40 minutes, I was wandering a floor, trying to figure out, where the hell's the elevator that actually takes me to the basement, because everything only takes me to the ground floor. And it turns out, he was just not even there. He was at a friggin' concert. He just fucking bailed on my training day.
Oh, wow.
I told the boss that, and then he goes like, okay, well, I'll be there. And then we waited an hour on the next day because he was an hour and 20 minutes late. I could have watched a movie in the span that this fucker was late.
You should have.
Yeah. And I kept asking the boss.
Do the podcast.
That would have been great, multitasking. Yeah, I'm going to be doing the job I want while waiting for the job I have. So, the guy was an hour late, and the boss didn't even seem too upset with him. He just had a chat with him in French, which to me, I could only base on the guy's reaction. It seemed more like, you really shouldn't be doing that, instead of, I'm so close to breaking your fucking face right now. You're going to be so fucking fired. The guy didn't look worried or upset or penitent or anything.
So it was a shit show from the start, huh?
Oh yeah, the boss seemed like a wishy-washy guy, and I kept asking, can you train me or can someone else train me so we can get the show on the road? And then we're like, no, we're just gonna wait for this guy. And I'm like, we kind of been waiting for half an hour, and I said that twice. And then when the guy did show up, he kept taking off right away for 10 or 15 minutes, and then by the end of the shift, the second shift, he didn't even walk me outside, sign me out, or give me the key so I can get my own stuff from the locker room. It turns out he just dropped it off at the front desk and just fucked off. Again, that's his leitmotif. And, oh my fuck, this guy, turns out, I was talking to a coworker saying, I wonder where he kept disappearing. And she said, well, you don't have to wonder because I took pictures of him napping in the break room.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, mother McFucker, I'm the idiot. And this guy was showing me I'm an amateur slacker, loser, idiot. This guy's a pro, and there's levels of idiocy that my pride will not allow me to reach.
Well,
so
Well, Mike, maybe this will be the golden episode that everyone's going to hear and want to support the show on Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/graveyard, and you won't have to worry about looking for employment somewhere else. This could be your full-time job.
If that was the case, I would be the happiest boy in the world.
Now, before we get further into this episode, I just want to say that Mike and I are not movie experts. We're not involved in the industry in any way. We are just a couple of regular guys who love the genre and want to share our thoughts with you. If you haven't seen our featured movie, then maybe it'll help you decide whether or not you want to see it. And if you have, then you can reminisce about the movie or think about whether or not you agree with our opinions. And if you don't agree, that's cool. You are free to have your own opinion.
Which is wrong.
Your very own wrong opinion. That's right.
Well, also, if you're scared of horror movies, you can listen to us and then talk with people, and you don't have to feel left out because you can carry on the conversations about movies and say like, oh, remember that scene? Oh, when that guy got killed, blah, blah, blah. And then you won't look like an idiot who's like a pussy and doesn't watch movies.
There you go. You'll be able to have lots of knowledge about the movie and talk about it without actually having to watch it. So there you go. We save you some time, some embarrassment. We're your friends.
We're Cliff Notes with a personality.
There you go. So, Mike, let's not keep our listeners in suspense any longer. How about you tell them what this week's episode is all about?
Today's episode title is In Blob We Trust, because we watched The Blob.
We sure did. Yes, I freaking love this movie. Thanks again to our listener, Robin, for this one. I actually know Robin. We've been friends for almost 10 years, and this guy is a bona fide horror junkie, so I know when he was going to make a suggestion, it was going to be good, and he did not disappoint. So, yeah.
Yep. Although to eliminate any confusion, this was not the original Steve McQueen movie.
No, it was not. This is, of course, the 1988 remake, which, in my personal opinion, I think this is one of the rare instances where the remake was better than the original.
Yeah.
And I like the original. It's 1950s B-movie cheesiness at its best. I just like this one better.
Yep, it's one of the rare ones that they actually managed to find the essence that made it and then improve upon it with appealing to modern contemporary mores and expectations.
It had some great... Well, I don't want to get too much into the details about what I liked about it because, that's kind of our thing, but... It had some great things about it that I liked. Of course, one thing that the original had that the remake didn't have was this.
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door. And
Yeah.
a splotch, a blotch, be careful of the blob.
The blob, it leaps and creeps. Yeah, that's the one thing where the soundtrack took a left turn. I wouldn't say like it failed. It just was like less
I don't know.
campy.
It had a good 80s soundtrack.
It did. But when you watch the original, you expect a small degree of camp, and it was just like fuck camp. We're just going 80s sci-fi horror.
The action, the special effects. It was good. I just liked it. So, like we said, this one was released in August 1988, which was 1 month short of the 30th anniversary of the original. It was made by TriStar Pictures. Has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 61% from critics and 55% from audience. So
That's
not great. And it's one of those odd occasions again where a horror movie was actually more liked by critics than fans for some reason. While it does have a good cult following today, it was hardly a box office success as it made only $8.2 million in theaters, earning back less than half of its $19 million budget.
Oh my god, it bombed?
Yeah.
That is...
Now, see, I saw this movie, I did see it when I was a kid, when it came. I didn't see it in theaters, but I did see it on VHS. And I heard about it. I remember seeing trailers for it on TV. I watched it, and I thought that, like, my entire life, that this movie was, a celebrated classic horror movie that was actually quite good. So I was very surprised to see that this was actually a box office bomb.
Yeah, I can't see why. This nailed.
Yeah.
To me, it nailed everything it aimed for.
All I can say is that I think the people of 1988 were wrong.
Yeah, 80s, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, really. What the hell is wrong with you people?
I think they were too distracted by the Berlin Wall and the Russians. And they were too busy liking Ronald Reagan and that Dutch boy hairstyle of his.
There you go.
You got to make America great for the Gipper. What did the Gipper do for this movie? Fuck all.
It has a 95-minute runtime, so sweet spot.
Yep.
It stars Shawnee Smith, who has been in a lot of things, and I'm not afraid to admit was one of my childhood crushes. And she still looks great.
Oh, yeah. She, I've seen her in, the most recent thing I saw her in was Anger Management, the TV series with Charlie Sheen.
I saw that on IMDb. I've never watched that show, but I did see that. And I think that's where I saw a recent picture of her, and I was like, wow, yeah, she aged well.
Yeah, still crush-worthy.
Mm-hmm,
she got that nice low voice of hers. And apparently she's in a band with Missy Pyle.
I'm not surprised. That she's in a band, I mean.
Yeah, she knows like 3 or 4 instruments.
Wow. So cute and talented. Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It also stars Johnny Drama from Entourage. I'm sure he has a real name, but it doesn't matter. Oh, did you notice, when you watched the movie, did you notice Dale from The Walking Dead was there?
Art LaFleur.
Jerry DeMunn, I believe is...
Yes.
I didn't look it up. I just wrote down Dale from The Walking Dead. That's my notes when I was watching.
That was the second Walking Dead I noticed. The first was, the screenplay was written by Frank Darabont.
That's right.
Who did
yeah,
The
we got a
Walking
couple
Dead.
of Walking Dead alums in this movie.
Yep, and the sheriff was played by Jeffrey DeMunn Dale, and that was pretty darn cool.
It was. Something else I didn't realize until I watched this again. Yeah, Frank Darabont wrote the screenplay, and he was the original showrunner for The Walking Dead. And actually, they've done a few things together, because I think he was... Frank Darabont was the director of The Mist.
Ooh.
Which Jeffrey DeMunn was in as well.
Did he get killed in that, too? He
was one of... I don't want to spoil anything, because, we... Actually, it doesn't matter. Even if we cover The Mist on a future episode, it doesn't matter. Remember the just soul-crushing scene at the end of The Mist?
Was that the remake with Tom Welling, or the original from the, what is it, the 80s or the 70s?
Of The Mist?
Yeah.
No, you're thinking of The Fog.
Oh, the other
Stephen
precipitous
King.
Vapor.
Yep.
What the fuck was it with the 70s and 80s? It's just like the mist, the squall, the drizzle.
Well, the Mist is fairly new. I think it was like early 2000s.
Before you die, the last thing you'll see is barely across the street.
Okay, now before we go on to some completely different movies, back to the Blob. So as for the plot, I'm pretty sure even if you haven't seen the movie, most people know what the plot is all about. A meteorite carrying an amoeba-like organism crashes into a small California town. The organism eats and dissolves anything in its path as it grows, and begins feeding on the residents of the town.
And I have to say that this might be the first movie we've seen based on a true story. That is not a joke. See, The Blob was originally based off a 1950 incident that happened. 4 Philadelphia, Pennsylvania policemen reported the discovery of a domed disc of quivering jelly, 6 feet in diameter, 1 foot thick at the center, and an inch or 2 near the edge. When they tried to pick it up, it dissolved into an odorless, sticky scum. And that incident inspired the '58 movie The Blob.
They were all high. They probably, it was... What year did you say it was?
1950.
Yeah, they all tried, they all smoked the marijuana for the first time because it was, the hip new thing to do.
They were dealing with those beatniks, and they weren't doing anything wrong, but they were trying to keep an eye on them, and one of them offered them a cigarette, which wasn't quite a Marlboro.
Yeah, that's my theory. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, but Star Jelly has been a famous thing for a while. It says there's been reports of it for centuries. In like the 12th century, a man, John of Gaddison, mentioned Stella Terrae, Latin for Star of the Earth or Earth Star, in his medical writings, describing it as a mucilaginous substance lying upon the earth, and suggesting that it might be used to treat abscesses. And then in the 1440s, the English Latin dictionary had the above had entries of star fallen, star falling, star jelly, star shot, which really sounds like a sex tape, star slime, star sloth, star slubber, and star slutch.
Jesus.
And there's a slime mold that's called caca de luna by the locals
Yeah,
in Veracruz, Mexico. So star jelly has been a thing for a long time, and even in 1910, it was ruminated by T. McKenney Hughes as to why meteors were associated with star jelly by poets and ancient writers, and observed that the jelly seemed to grow out among the roots of the grass. So, again, this is based off something that exists.
Well, I hope no one's ever been dissolved and eaten by it, at least.
Well, if they did, they weren't telling anybody after.
Okay, so enough history and science. Let's get back into the movie. So, Mike, I got a feeling this is going to be another American Werewolf in London for me because I'm going to have lots of good things to say. So, brace yourself.
Yeah, my likes are swole as well.
Yeah, no wonder. Like I said, I can't say enough about this movie. This is one of my favorites. I was so glad that this was suggested. So, would you like me to start off?
Well, I just got a little bit more trivia of my own before we get into it.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
The guy that played the priest was an actor named Del Close, and he was in the 72 film Beware the Blob, which was the unofficial sequel to the 58 Blob, making him the only actor to be in 2 Blob movies. And there was one fun fact about him that's not Blob related, but just goes to show that this guy was, my kind of prankster. He willed his skull to the Goodman Theater in Chicago, Illinois, because he stated in his last request he always wanted to play Yorick in Hamlet.
Jesus Christ.
Because he played a different character in Hamlet, but he always wanted to play Yorick, except you have to be dead for it. So he did, and the skull was handed over on July 1st of 1999. However, in 2006, it was revealed that his skull was actually cremated with the rest of his body, and the skull donated to the Goodman Theater was a fake.
A fake skull, or just not his skull?
Either way, I have to commend this guy for punking these people 7 years from beyond the grave. I mean, that is a long game I can respect.
Yep. That's if he arranged that, that's a good way to go out. You imagine, your final request is to is to troll a theater.
And just watch from beyond the grave as they're like, wow, the actor Del Close is in my hand. This is so amazing. I'm really going to show this the respect and reverence it deserves. And he's just up there in the clouds going. He's just going.
His ghost is just like, ha, fuck you guys.
Yeah, there was an old guy with the cans in this. The first guy that gets killed. I looked up his credits on IMDb because he looked familiar. Mm-hmm. And it turns out this guy, his niche was not playing characters with names. Like, he died in 2010.
Was that the old guy that discovered the meteor?
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's his credits. From Dollhouse, old man. Uncross the Stars, old man. The Riches, old man. Seventh Heaven, old guy. One of the last times he had a name was in the TV series Charmed. He played octogenarian in The Tick. He played old man in the movie Mystery Man. He played homeless man in Leprechaun 2. He was in Max Headroom as a fast food counterman. So this guy had been around. He played a guard in Married with Children. The reason I had to look this guy up because I thought he was the old man from Home Alone.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Turns out he wasn't, but this guy was in other, again, Leprechaun 2, so this guy was just, he loved his horror movies.
So he played a character called Old Man for about 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so as for my first light, I just gotta say this, the special effects in this movie, they just make me so happy. I love my 80s practical effects, and this movie was laden with it. It just, everything from some of the stop motion, involved. The gore effects were great. Like when you see people get dissolved by the blob, fucking fantastic.
Yeah, it looked real. Like that.
It did. It looked real, and even in some of the scenes, it didn't look that real. It still looked great. It just right from the beginning, the first guy, the Can Man, I think you referred to him.
That's his name in the credits too, Can
Yeah,
Man.
like right from that start when he first gets the ooze on his hand, and he's just in total pain. To when you finally see it get revealed that he's been almost completely consumed by it. Then you see the next kill where the blob drops off the ceiling onto who you think the first time when you watch this movie is going to be the star of it.
Yeah, I mean, subvert your expectations right off the bat.
And right, just out of nowhere, like this guy that you think is going to be the hero of the film just gets dissolved in front of his girlfriend.
Yeah, that was in my notes as just, wow, so much for wholesome Paul.
Yep, which was awesome. So the effects in this movie were top notch. You can see where most of this movie's $19 million budget went, because I'm sure that wasn't cheap to do in 1988.
Yeah, like getting puppets that would work while weighed down by slime.
Yep.
That's like thick enough to stay on, but translucent enough so you can see the effects, the puppets and the animatronics underneath.
Yeah, it's just so well done. I loved it. That was always the main thing about this movie. Like there's lots of other stuff I like about it, but this was always what made me want to watch this movie again and again. Just the kill scenes, the gore, everything involving special effects was just perfect.
Absolutely. That was my first like as well. The special effects were just on
I'm
point.
not surprised.
Although I had an addendum that we talked about The Shining, how the credits in that were just fucking terrible, in my opinion. And gotta say, complete turnaround. The titles in this movie are fantastic. We get to see a nice wide font with a starburst backing, so that each name is dynamic, it is present, it is powerful, it is just great. And
It is
Dan Curry was the guy that did the titles, and I have to mention him by name and salute him because he knows how to introduce people in a movie.
Oh yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was just even just the title, the credits, the opening credits were like just such 80s goodness. Just so well done. Absolutely. And you're right, such a contrast to The Shining when we watched it last week.
You covered my first like, so I'll start with my second like. And it was when the kid sells out his friend to the priest in the drugstore when he's buying condoms, and the priest talks to him, and when the guy brings the condoms back to him and says like ribbed or unribbed, and he's like, they're for my friend. He didn't even want to take precautions, but I believe that if you're gonna like sin, you're gonna do it responsibly. Like you gotta look out for her, but he just doesn't care. just an excellent shit stain moment.
Yep.
And the payoff afterwards when the poor kid, innocent as can be, goes to pick up his girl for a wholesome first date, and her dad is the pharmacist. And he's like, ribbed.
Yeah. That was so good.
It was just good pacing, good setup, excellent payoff.
That would have been like my teenage nightmare right there.
He didn't even know what the guy was saying. He was just he didn't even know. That's like how beautifully detached he was from the whole thing. Like, why is he pissed? I don't have any condoms.
Oh my god. Yeah, great scene. Absolutely.
Okay, so what was your second like?
Okay, this is not that it's unusual for... Well, it is for most horror movies to get, but this movie had balls because it had no problem killing kids. And not just like some cutaway, you know, or it was alluded that a kid was killed or anything like this. You saw a friggin' child get dissolved by a friggin' acidic space amoeba. In
Yeah.
one of the most gruesome scenes in the movie.
Oh. Yeah, like, oh, poor kid.
I can't remember his name, but the kid was a little shit, but still, like, jeez. They're trying to escape from the movie theater. They got out of the movie theater. They're trying to escape through the sewers, and all of a sudden, you know, this kid gets pulled underwater. They're reaching around the water trying to get him, and all of a sudden he just pops up, covered in the ooze. His face is almost completely gone. He's screaming his lungs out.
With his yellow shirt, he didn't look too bad, but then when he has no hair and that yellow shirt, that he looked like Charlie Brown.
Oh my god, he looked like radiation poisoning Charlie Brown.
Further, like
Actually, no. Charlie Brown looks like radiation poisoning Charlie Brown. He looks like
Charlie Brown already looks like chemo Charlie Brown anyway.
he looked like chemical burn Charlie Brown.
Good grief!
It's eating my skin. Good grief.
Oh my god, I thought the kite eating tree was bad. The kid eating blob is worse. Yeah, my second like was the shit stained buddy. Again, another moment with him where he's with the girl at the point, and he goes to like refresh her drink, and he's got a Glenn Quagmire's level trunk bar.
That was the best. Oh my god.
He's got like a big bucket full of class rings, because like it still played off that 50s thing, like, you know, you're my ring, you're my girl, which means that like you put out.
Yeah.
Which, oh my gosh, he's got like a whole bucket of rings. He's got like a liquor cabinet. It's surprised he's got like a keg, and it's got like felt lining in the trunk. Like, it is just like Exhibit looked at this and thought, man, I could make a show about doing this to cars.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like he's like, the trunk of his car is fully decked out. He's got a full bar, a bucket full of rings. I'm sure there's some roofies in there somewhere. It's got, like, he's got the Bill Cosby special in his, in his trunk.
The Cosmobile.
Oh my god, yeah, great. And gets the fitting end for like such a douchebag.
Oh yeah, well, that we'll come to that later.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your second? Yeah, third like.
Yeah, I guess just like, compared to the first movie, which, like I said, I'm not going to shit on the original Blob. Like, I like it. It was a great movie. But where the original Blob, it was so fitting for the time, so fitting for the 50s. This movie was so fitting for the 80s, because what did they do? Not only was it a horror movie, but geez, you just open up your mouth and just cram like an action movie down your throat as well.
Yeah.
Because this one involves like the army having a shootout. There's like just weapons galore. There's explosives, guns, flamethrowers. Every like 1980s action movie cliche is thrown in.
If E.T. went sideways, this is what it would have looked like.
Oh yeah. So
like
I love that.
Like if E.T. ate Elliot. Taste good.
So yeah, so I love that. It was a horror movie. It was an action movie. It would have fit on our list, on our top 10 list for action horror for sure.
Yeah, it definitely paid off.
It was a roller coaster. Like, it was tense. Like, the action did not let up in this movie. It had a great pace.
Yep.
You know, not very many. I found myself, I'm either like just lapping up the gore. It was great gory scenes. I was laughing at the comedic bits, or I was just enjoying the action. So, you know, no complaints.
Yeah, and was that it for your likes, or did you have any more?
Yeah, I think so. I think like I included enough in that part, like that. I think I'm good. Like, I think I've got my point across.
Yeah, there were other movies that, like this had a typical scene of horror movies where someone sticks their hand in a drain
Yes.
and regrets it. It's like this movie and others like it were the reasons, like, I would just never fucking ever stick my hand in a drain to get anything out. Like, if I can't get a tool to poke out a clog, fucking, I'm gonna pour acid down there. Like, I'm not sticking my hand down there. Fuck you.
No, this I'm not joking. This movie made me scared as a kid to like stick my hand in any type of pipe or anything.
Well, I think Amityville also had another one, or was it The Exorcist, where someone like had to stick their hand in a what was it, like a garbage processor?
Amityville, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and then like of course, what you expect to go wrong does go wrong, and except this one was beautifully subverted because you think like, oh, the blob is gonna like, spray out of the drain and cover this guy up and attack the kitchen.
Nope.
No, it pulls him, a grown ass fucking man, and a big man too, down the drain. Like, I guess it like has to like go inside of him, hollow him out, and then just like suck him up bit by bits into the drain. And poor George, like, he got drained in two ways.
No, that's such a good scene. It pulls him in. As it's pulling in, further it pulls him into the drain. I guess as it's eating him, the blob is growing because the pipes underneath start expanding out.
Excellent storytelling, just showing you like how that it's increasing in size without having to show you it at first. Like, good prelude.
Mm-hmm. And the blob, of course, getting redder and redder as it eats more people, because all the people it's dissolving is like, you got all this, all the blood.
Then it explodes into the kitchen. Yeah. And then it had,
I could go on and on. Yeah, I could, like, this is a movie where I could go scene by scene and just like gush all over it because it is so good. And it also had good lines, like when Kevin Dillon is trapped in the cafe. That's Johnny Drama, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Dillon.
and she says, "Oh no, the door's locked." He just picks up a brick. "That's okay, I got a key." Mm-hmm. Like, that was just like subtle action. Like that's like a Schwarzenegger level line. And then when they get captured by them and they have no idea who they are, he's going like, again, this guy got the best lines in the movie. He's like, "These people could be anyone. NASA, CIA, the Royal Canadian Mounties." Just like, yeah, the Mounties, who are in an American town and not wearing those puffy pants called breeks or that large brown hat. But yeah, it could be Mounties.
Yep.
And then my final like is when they park a car over the manhole cover to keep them out. And again, the master of getting out of a place. Yep. From a cafe to a moving vehicle to a blocked manhole cover, Kevin Dillon is the master of getting from one place to another. Mm-hmm. And he takes this guy who's somehow a scientist with a hazmat suit, had a rocket launcher on his back, and he uses it to blow the fuck out of a manhole cover, which just the sound of that explosion would have created a shockwave that would have killed anybody down there.
Well, like I said, that's going back to like one of my likes about how action-packed this was, because I'm pretty sure like at least 85% of the movies in the 80s involved a rocket launcher.
That's a prerequisite.
Yeah,
like, even Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Did you ever see that movie?
Yep.
Yeah, they kill a snake with a rocket launcher because the guy like even says like, "I don't know, my aim is just really lousy with guns."
I was convinced as a kid that like pretty much every house in America during the 80s had a rocket launcher.
And you're like, why don't we have it up in Canada? Why are we deprived? Where's our rocket launcher?
Like, you just go like to any store, like, you go to any gun store, it's like, yeah, I'll take like, there's shotguns and handguns, rifles, and give me a rocket launcher.
Tow missile or regular missile?
I'm not crazy. Regular missile. It's fine.
Sheesh, man, I don't live in that neighborhood.
I'm not a psychopath. Jeez.
So let's talk about dislikes, because I had a few.
Yeah. One of the things I just had to mention, and this is not like just this movie, it's like a lot of 80s movies. the characters were pretty stock. There wasn't a lot of diversity. It's like so many movies in the 80s, especially horror movies, had pretty much the same cast of characters. And I don't mean the same actors, the same characters. Like you got everybody. It's like you got the high school jock, the goody-goody, the the poor little rich girl, the misfit that turns out to be the hero that gets the girl at the end. That turns out he's actually pretty cool after all. So
yeah, then there's like the policeman who always looks at all teenagers as like friggin' punks.
Yeah. It's like as soon as they tell them like, something's going on, something horrible is going on, it's like they never believe them. So
are you sure you're not at the bottom of it, you slacker?
Yeah. So that was one of the things that just bothered me. And it didn't bother me at the time when I first watched it, but just revisiting it now, like wow, these characters were actually pretty unoriginal.
Yeah, they're pretty stock. And
then you got the the typical army guys and the scientist guys that, anything for the end result type of thing that create a monster and then talking about how beautiful it is, even though it's just devoured like 100 people.
Oh, I always hated that idea of like, they never realize like, you know what, maybe we kind of fucking blew it and we need to destroy this thing. It's like, no, we need to contain it. And they're always dead set on containing something that has no problem killing them.
Yeah.
It's like at that point, you're just like, at this point, fuck the paycheck. We're just going to do what it takes to get people out of here alive. Mm-hmm. But it's like that 80s capitalism. We're just like, this is my job, and I'm doing it.
You said it. Exactly.
Yeah, my first dislike was... Well, it was like several dislikes that all get compounded. The first is when Fran gets consumed in the phone booth, and we see the sheriff. Mm-hmm. Who, like, you just think, like, they're going to be getting together. Because they're just two nice people who have like lived a long life in a small town, and it's about time they take a shot at looking out for themselves and finding some love. And he goes to talk to her, and we don't know where he is. And then when she's in the phone booth, we get to see his corpse being pressed against the glass, and it's like, oh shit, no, Fran and the sheriff, no, I like those people.
Well, see, I understand. Like you were kind of rooting for Fran at least to survive, but I love that scene. That was oh my god, it like just to know like she's stuck in this phone booth covered and the blob has it totally enveloped. What's coming. She knows what's coming. She's just waiting for her death.
The way like she's smart, like bracing the door instead of just like screaming or like stabbing at it with a knife like some people. But she's actually kind of like doing the right thing, like calling for help or like bracing the door, but it's just to no avail. And we don't even see like how the sheriff got caught. I mean, like we saw it in the kitchen, and then like he just got killed off screen until we get to see his corpse pressed against the glass. And then like even like to me, even like the shitty kid, like that was in my dislike because he had like attitude, but he wasn't a bad kid, and he got consumed too. And then even when we get to see like the shitty deputy, like even like
the one that got folded in half,
like he smartens up, he gets off the kid's case, he realizes what it takes to kill the blob, like he's redeeming his character, he's smartening up, he's stepping up, he's actually making good decisions to protect people instead of being an asshole. And then he gets folded in half the wrong way by the blob, who like reaches through the barricade and just pulls him in. And it's like, oh my god, no. It's like, I think George R.R. Martin got his cues for killing likable characters from this movie. It's like, there's so many characters where just like, no, these are the people that live in movies. They're good. So yeah, okay. Game of Thrones took their lesson from this movie, I think.
Yeah. So
Sheldon, what's your second dislike?
Well, my second and I think only dislike is just a particular scene that stood out to me. I mean, I could probably mention some other stuff, but it really would come down to nitpicking, but this actually bothered me a little. And it goes back to something that we actually liked about the movie, a certain scene, the scene where the guy has a actual trunk bar. You mentioned before, it was a funny scene, like just to see him go back, opens up his trunk, He's got like a full bar in there. He's mixing drinks. He has a little battery-powered mixer and everything. And that was funny because it's like showing like, oh yeah, this guy is a bit of a douche. But that scene quickly goes bad when he mixes up a couple of drinks, goes back to the car with his girlfriend. And this bothered me because at this point his girlfriend is passed out, or at least he thinks she is. And he's talking to her, he's looking at her cleavage, talking to her, she's not responding, so instead of waking her up or anything like that, what does he do? He immediately goes in and starts unbuttoning her shirt. And when he says, like, oh, she didn't respond to that, she's still sleeping, he decides to go in for a grope. I mean, that's just, there's no other word for it. It's sexual assault. He just...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
like, and
he started off as harmless little sleazy Glenn Quagmire, and then morphed into Bill Cosby.
Yeah, and that was like I think watching the movie when I was a kid, a really young kid, I didn't really understand so much what was happening there. Watching it as an adult, it's like, holy crap, man! Like that, you just like committed a crime. That's really not cool. And, the character is a shitbag, and he did get his comeuppings very shortly after that. But this was kind of a typical thing for 80s movies involving teenagers. I mean, it was, women were very sexualized. It did get a bit misogynistic.
Yeah, they were something to be, they were like the prey in sexual situations.
Yeah.
Like... while Porky's had the guy spying on the girls in the change room, which is like, it's like that fine line between mischief and kind of like unwanted sexual activity. Like they have no idea they're being spied upon, so taking away their volition. And then there's what was that movie? Shit, not Porky's Meatballs. Animal House. No, wait, Revenge of the Nerds.
You know what? I know exactly what scene you're going for, but go for it. Yeah.
The guy is dressed up in the same costume as Ted McGinley, the jock, and he ends up getting alone with the jock's girlfriend, the cheerleader, and she starts telling him, like, she calls him by name, so this is the guy's opportunity to be like, oh wait, I'm not that guy. And she starts putting the moves on him, like, I'm so horny, I gotta do this right now, like, it's time for us to, like, I want to make love. And so he fucks her, impersonating the boyfriend. She thinks she's making love with her boyfriend, and she's not. That is, like, full on, like, just because she's not aware she's being raped doesn't mean she's not being raped.
Yeah, and like I said, this was not... and not like in horror movies too, but like mostly in comedies, like especially these teen sex comedies, like things like this were very common. Like it was a little. I found that more disturbing than the thought of that. A little more disturbing now, and I guess this is me being an old man now, but. It was a little more disturbing than any of the actual horror scenes in this movie to me.
Yeah, there's boys will be boys, and then there's boys will be sexual offenders.
Yeah. I don't buy into the whole boys will be boys type of thing. Like that's not something that ever really went over well with me.
So it's like it's normal to just be this predator, or just like deceive and manipulate to get things because. You can't just trust a woman's volition. Mm-hmm. She might say no.
And it was, and I've seen the movies before too, where it's like it's shown and like it's more of a, oh, you're a complete asshole for doing this, and this poor girl's a victim. This was done more, even though it ended up in a horror scene, it was done for comedic effect. And sorry, like there's just nothing funny about that. Anyway. I don't want to get
Yeah.
too down on this. That's just bothered me, and like that was the only thing that really, besides like I said earlier, the kind of stock cookie cutter '80s teen characters, and this one scene, I really had nothing else bad to say about this movie. Anything else I could say would really fall into nitpicking. So yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, for me, in my opinion, go see it. It's watch it, you'll enjoy it,
And if you get perved up by like rapey behavior, stick with it. Justice gets served.
and stop listening to our show because we don't want you. And
Friggin' snowflakes.
and so like, did you have anything else? Any other dislikes for this one?
One thing, like one little continuity error, or whether it was continuity or they just didn't fucking care, was when the punk gets out of the van, and then when they drive the van to downtown, they pull the girl out of the car and like put her into the quarantine with the rest of the population. None of them says, "Wait a second, wasn't there a guy with them? Wasn't there a guy with her?" Like nobody gets alarmed that, wait a second, somebody's missing. I mean, like, it's like he's forgotten socially, but you think one of them would realize, oh shit, there was two people in this van, one's gone. What the hell happened?
Yeah, no, that's true. It's a good point.
And then like one little nitpick, one little deviation from the '58 Blob was something I like to call, it came from outer. No, wait, it's from Earth.
Yep.
Yeah, it turns out the Blob was just some space-bound bacterial petri dish research that I guess things got mixed up and then it became sentient. It's like, we got to keep ahead of those fucking Russians.
I actually like that. Instead of just being some mystery, you know, like, because instead of being something like, oh, how did some alien survive, you know, flying through space? It seems kind of odd, and then to find out that it was actually an experiment, I like that. I remember the first time when they actually pulled the meteor out of the ground and you see that it's actually a big metal cylinder. Like, yeah, that's cool.
You think, oh shit, it's an alien ship, but then you see the American flag on it. Yeah, maybe I gotta redeem this dislike into a like. It was a nice deviation rather than like some weird alien intruder. It was just man's messing with God's domain.
I'll bring you around. I liked how they put the American flag on it though, because you know, they want. I mean, you're like, what else would he put? Like, should he put their big logo on the side too, and like if lost, please return to.
Yeah.
Or found, please.
That's what the flag is for. If found, please return to.
1-800 NASA. Yeah. So.
I'm just like, the only thing that would have been like better is if it was like one of Ronald Reagan's satellites to like, you know, come up with a cure for communism or something.
I always wondered what they would do, because at the end, when they blow up the snow machine, that ends up freezing the blob, and they collect all the pieces. Because they said something about they got to get this to the freezer or something like that.
Yeah, unless they can find a way to like shoot it into the
I
sun.
was just curious at how they would end up destroying it. I wish somebody had said something like, if there was one of the scientists left that said like, oh, I know how to destroy it. We got to get this, whatever, and you know, get it to the freezer so it doesn't get away, and then we'll get this.
Oh yeah, they could have been like, it's a large acidic blob, so all we need is a base of equal pH balance to neutralize it.
Maybe they could do
Like something.
what eats like you know, like giant amoebas. Oh well, we have like some kind of little bacteria that does that, but now that's growing and out of control. Well, what eats bacteria? Well, there's a certain type of lizard or that.
Great, so what eats the lizard? Well, we're working on this 6-foot-tall jungle cat.
Be like a Simpsons thing. Remember the lizard, the episode of The Simpsons where the bird eating lizards? It's like it turns out these lizards like thrive on pigeons, so they're cleaning up the pigeon population. But like, aren't we going to be stuck full of lizards then? Yeah, but don't worry. We found out that the natural predator of these lizards are needle snakes. So we're going to launch wave after wave at them, and they'll soon clean up the lizards. It's like, but then the place is going to be full of snakes. Yeah, but there's a certain type of African gorilla that thrives on snake meat. We're just going to bring a few of those in. I can't even remember where the chain ended, but that's what it was like. I was actually after I watched it, I was like, as soon as he said we're going to bring it to a freezer, I'm like, what are they going to do afterwards? I want to know.
Yeah, so who knows how they destroy the blob? Maybe they just like feed it to like a horde of slugs or something.
Anyway,
or they just throw it into the Arctic and be like, you know what, we're just gonna leave it in the Arctic Circle. You know, we're just gonna put like a big sign up there, don't fucking touch, and and you know, it'll never be a problem unless the whole planet heats up. But then we'll have bigger problems.
What? Yeah. It's like, what? I mean, come on. It'll take some kind of global warming for it to thaw out of here, but what's the chances of that happening?
I mean, we would see that coming years away, and obviously take the safe precautions.
So anything else, Mike, for this one?
I'm out of dislikes.
Awesome. So I think I know what you're going to say, but overall, would you recommend this one?
Yeah, it is definitely 2 thumbs up, or like one thumb and like one arm that's covered in a weird mucosal layer while I'm screaming in agony.
One arm that's not being digested by a acidic blob. Yeah, me too. This one, definitely, if you haven't seen it, see it. If you have seen it, but it's been a while, check it out again. It's just 80s practical effects, gory goodness, very cheesy, very gory, all good. So, highly recommended, for sure. It's got the Graveyard Shift seal of approval. All right, so Mike, I think it's time. What have you got for us this week? Anything, deleted scenes, bonuses, exclusive audio? What's up?
Well, I swept the cutting room floor. And found nothing. I got nothing. I looked around and they gave us everything they got.
But really? Nothing? Not a thing?
No, I mean, like, I thought like there was like a part of a script talking about like Ronald Reagan talking about the experiment failed, but you know, like I couldn't make it out. There was just nothing.
Oh, okay. I
Moving
guess
on,
so.
I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. And before we wrap up talking about the Blob, I think it's time I introduce my kill of the week.
Yes. And I'm very curious about which one you picked because there's a lot of good ones in this movie.
Oh yeah, we're not suffering Shining syndrome here.
No win by default this time.
No, we actually have to have someone try.
Yes.
And this movie, oh frig, so many great deaths.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very curious because every kill in this movie was fantastic. So lay it on me, man.
Yeah, my kill of the week is the one that's been mentioned several times, where the rape jock gets what he has coming to him.
Yes.
Sadly, it's at the cost of the victim, though. Mm-hmm. And when he reaches in for that tit, and he gets anything but we get to see his arm wrapped up in tendrils. And as his hand gets pulled into her chest cavity, he looks up at her face, and we finally see her face collapsing in on itself, where she looks like a cross between a melting Cabbage Patch doll and a frustrated Muppet.
Yeah. Yeah, she was basically hollow at this point and just getting, like, just imploding.
Yeah, the funny part is that, like, just the implication that this blob with no brain somehow has situational awareness and actually waits rather than, you know, he just pulls open the shirt and sees like a decaying chest cavity or something, that it's actually like staying still while eating her and waiting for him to make his move. Like, it's that aware.
Mm-hmm. The guy was a total piece of shit, but like I said, quickly got what was coming to him.
And now he's a piece of blob shit.
Yep. So, good choice. I was really curious about which one you were going to pick. But, yeah, I'm totally satisfied with that one.
All right, now that we put the blob to bed, what's up?
Well, since the blob is... Because originally I was wondering if maybe we should keep the original blob, the 1958 version, for its own episode. But I think that even though there's a few differences, I think that they're close enough that we don't really have to do 2 blob episodes. So,
it's like this movie, but more 50s theater audience wholesome.
Yeah, they're very much like displays of the time periods they were made in, because the 1958 version like was exactly what you'd think of with the cheesy sci-fi slash horror B movie, starring the legendary Steve McQueen, which
It was
is
his feature debut.
yeah, it was his first starring role, and he played a 28-year-old teenager. And you know what? This is the thing, because I went back and looked at. I didn't watch the entire movie. I've seen it. I've seen it before, but just when I was watching the '88 Blob again and writing up my notes, at some points I would go back, like just open my phone and look at some scenes from the original Blob, and I'm like, I'm sorry, he really did not pass for a teenager.
Total Luke Perry syndrome.
Oh my God, yeah, he's like no, he's a good-looking guy, but like he did not look like he was a high school senior. I don't know. High school like took a lot longer to finish in the 50s, but yeah, that
I wonder.
not a convincing teenager. Good movie though. It had most of the main scenes from the like a lot of the scenes carried over into the remake. Just like I said, the big difference is that the remake added a crap load of gore, updated special effects, of course, and they had to layer some good 80s action scenes into it.
So what did they have for the 50s rape scene?
No rape scene in the 50s one. no one was going to do any cupping in that movie. So
So was there kills in the 50s one that weren't paralleled in this one, or was this just like more kills and no barriers?
Well, it
for
started
victims?
off at the start of it. Mostly the start was the same. Like it was the old guy getting it stuck on his hand, getting hit by a car, and being brought to the hospital. But it's a small, like more like a clinic type of thing. It wasn't like a real hospital. It was just a clinic where it kills the old guy, then it kills a doctor and a nurse. The theater scene, because that scene is iconic, and I found out that where this was filmed, the theater is still there. It's become like kind of a historical landmark. The theater where they filmed that scene is there, and they've kept it looking on the outside exactly the way it did in the movie.
Oh, sweet.
So it's actually like a bit of a tourist attraction, and you can go check it out. And like even the marquee, they didn't even change the marquee; it's exactly the same. I didn't see what movie they were showing, what was on the marquee, but I did see Bela Lugosi.
The Blob Historical Preservation Society.
Yeah, and once again, it like kind of followed like this is twice the same movie. The original and remake wasn't stellar when it came out. It didn't have it wasn't a box office hit or anything. In fact, it was a bit of a flop, and but picked up steam later on. Became a bit of a cult classic years after its release.
Yeah, and I guess the big change would be that alien was from space.
Yeah, it wasn't disclosed. You just saw the meteor, and the meteor splits open, releases the ooze, and it's not actually talked about where it came from or anything. So
It's not a government prototype, because back then, in the 50s, the government was something you could trust. In fact, you had to by law.
or else you were a commie.
Yeah, trust in the government wasn't just everywhere. It was everywhere because it was mandatory.
Oh, that could have been some great propaganda. They could have had it that it was a Russian experiment.
Ooh, that would have been great. And it's an analog for communism, because this is what happens when everything comes together.
Yeah.
This is what happens when everyone is equal. Everyone is food.
It becomes one solid mass that consumes everything.
Just like socialism.
So yeah, so it's worthwhile. Like if you're in the mood for a good 50s B movie type, like it's right up there. That The Blob and The Creature from the Black Lagoon are probably my top two recommendations when it comes to the 50s horror / sci-fi B movies. So check it out. It's worthwhile. And they both have very similar scores on IMDb, actually, and Rotten Tomatoes. I believe I wrote them down somewhere. You see all my notes here, because I do all my notes old school.
My favorites for the 50s sci-fi horrors was them and the War of the Worlds.
Oh, yeah, War of the Worlds is a great one as well. I really want them to do a War of the Worlds movie that's actually set in the time period of the book.
The Victorian era. That would
Yes,
be great.
that would be amazing. Somebody needs to get on that. Stop doing it like making it in the time period that the movie is being made in. Make a copy of War of the Worlds, a remake of War of the Worlds, and just follow the book as your source material. Don't deviate.
You know there was a comic that came out, it was Superman versus the War of the Worlds.
I did not.
It starts off with Clark Kent and Lois Lane being sent to cover a meteor strike in a small town. And then the alien vessel emerges and vaporizes everyone, except Lois survives because Clark is shielding her, but his clothes have been evaporated. So now she sees the uniform underneath and his identity is revealed.
Oh.
And then he ends up trying to fight the alien death machine, but it's an even fight until other ships come along, and then he has to retreat because he's outgunned. And it turns out that the American military is working with a top scientist to repel the alien death machine. Three guesses who the scientist is.
Lex Luthor.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Not
so
a shock.
Superman has to team up with him, and turns out in the end he's working with the aliens.
Of course he
Because
is.
he's a
a
prick.
bag of shit. That's why.
So if you can find this comic, it's worth checking out. It is just like a bizarre Elseworld situation, which is just... I like the DC Elseworlds. It's like it's like their version of What Ifs. And they have like Batman versus Dracula, where Batman kills Dracula but gets bitten by him in the end. So that night, like even though Dracula's dead, Batman turns and then he becomes the vampire of Gotham.
That's great. That's what I needed. More comics obscure comics I gotta hunt down. Thanks a lot, jerk. All right, so Mike, do we have anything else to add to the Blob?
I think the Blob has taken enough.
Yep.
If we add anything to it, it's just going to get bigger.
Yeah, I think I think I've talked just about enough about what I can when it comes to these movies. There is, of course, Beware of the Blob, a movie that's in between the two that I have not seen yet, but I will definitely check out sometime, and then we'll decide if it's worthy of its own episode.
Well, it should be, since it's a sequel, it's not like an in-between. Like this one was a complete remake, as you can tell from the fact that it was a shot for shot, but with a bit more reality in it, such as shitty people in it. But like this one, from what I gathered, it's a direct sequel because the 50s movie ends with them actually bringing the frozen blob to the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, you're right.
Because rather, you don't want to risk a power failure and then this thing coming out and eating things. So they send it to the Arctic, and in the 72 sequel, just from the synopsis I read, an explorer finds a piece of it, brings it back for study, and his wife, because, women be clumsy, especially in those movies, she accidentally unleashes the blob, and the shard of the blob, and it just ravages again.
All right. Yeah, may have to check it out. It's probably going to seem very similar in theme, but it's got my interest. I'll check it out. And so with our Blob coverage all taken care of, how about we let everybody know what we've got in store for next week?
Next week is another fan recommendation by who this time?
I believe it was Amy H., a fan of the show, that recommended this one.
And it is the original Evil Dead.
This is you can probably feel it right now through the audio waves. This is making me smile. This is one of my favorite movies ever, so I am very happy about this one.
This is a testament to the fact that you can have no money, no experience, barely know what the fuck you're doing, and still make a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
So all those people that do make shitty movies on a big budget with professional crews,
yep,
you got to look at this movie and go, what the fuck is wrong with me? How could I have blown it? I had all the advantages these people didn't,
Yep.
and I still put out a turd.
Oh, I'm gonna have so much to talk about. This might end up being an extended episode next week because there's gonna be so much to talk about, and I got so much extra stuff too to add in when it comes to Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. It's just
Well, so tune in next week for the free abridged version, and if you want to have us tell everything there is to say about this movie, subscribe to Patreon. Mm-hmm. That's www.patreon.com/graveyard.
yeah. And for Patreon sponsors, don't forget to check in with the Patreon website because we do have a couple of bonuses up there now that you can only hear if you are a Patreon subscriber and making a donation to the show. We've got the Fright Night, which was our pilot episode. We've got the extended version of Fright Night, plus we have our horror top 10 list up there. Very soon, we're going to have our extended episode of The Shining up there because
it'll be an exclusive review because it's not The Shining we know.
Yeah. Yep, it's something a little different. I've talked to a lot of people about The Shining, and there's so many people that aren't even aware that this one, what we're going to be talking about in the extended episode, even exists.
Yeah, Stephen King's version.
Mm-hmm. Stephen King, like we said in the Shining episode, he wasn't happy with this movie. So in 1990, was it 98?
97.
97, he said, you know what? It still bothers me. I'm gonna do it right. And so we'll talk about that, and you'll be able to see what the end result was. See if it turned out to be around the same, better, or just a complete turd.
If he couldn't let go of his grudge against that van that hit him, he sure as hell wasn't going to forgive Kubrick.
Yeah, that's true. So that next week, Evil Dead, the original. So much to talk about because it has a couple sequels, a remake. It's a TV show as well. We got to talk about. So yeah, going to be a great episode. Cannot wait. So thanks for the suggestion. We'll get more into that next week. If you have a movie suggestion for us, or you want to give us some thoughts, you just want to say hi, send us a message, tell us what you like in horror, what your favorite horror movies are. Lots of ways you can do it. You can email us at graveyardshiftpod@gmail.com. You can reach out to us on Twitter at GYS_horrorpod, and check us out on Facebook at The Graveyard Shift Pod. And if you'd like to help out the show financially, you can make a monetary donation at www.patreon.com/graveyard. And of course, if you don't have the money to give us money, you can help us out a ton by going on iTunes and rate, review, subscribe. That's actually probably what would help us out the most in the long run. A good iTunes review, subscription. That way then you don't have to worry about finding the episode every week. Once you subscribe, it's automatically downloaded to whichever device you use to ingest your podcasts. So it's a great way to do it. And like I said, good time to subscribe on Patreon because with as little as $1, you get access to our Patreon exclusive episodes. We're going to later on, once we do this for a while, we're going to be setting some goals on Patreons where if we reach certain levels, we're going to be able to do more stuff. One of the things that we really want to do, we hope that we're going to reach this level at some point, that we can actually get some Graveyard Shift merchandise made up. We're talking about maybe some stickers, hats, t-shirts, stuff like that. So maybe even have some giveaways later on.
Oh, what I would love to do is make enough money so that we can actually go to like some horror conventions.
Yes, that too.
Press the flesh, see if we can meet some of these people in person and get them on the show. Yeah. Wouldn't that be great?
So we're going to be setting some goals on Patreon, so you'll be able to take a look at those. And if you can help us out, that would be great. Anything you can do for us is greatly appreciated. And
like emails with amazing pictures in them.
Yes.
And you know who you are. Thank you.
Thank you, but you don't have to do that. Don't.
Hey, Sheldon's speaking for himself because he's married. His wife's listening. But I'm single, and I will accept any tributes you wish to send in picture or video format.
Without any having to say a word right now in the show, everybody listening knows exactly what we're talking about right now. Oh, gosh. I gotta admit, that was not what I expected to see that day when I checked the email.
Oh my god, that was like the biggest surprise. It's just like, I really thought we'd have to be at this for like 3 or 4 years before we get those kind of groupies.
Well, you didn't expect it after 3 episodes?
No, it's just like, wait a second, do we have like 6,000 listeners that I'm not aware of? Like, have we already made it big right away? I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of success.
Okay, I'm gonna break Mike's heart right now and tell him that I'm actually gonna say, please don't do that. Don't send us nude pictures, please. I can't believe I'm actually having to say this right now.
Just say this is for Mike, okay? Because apparently Sheldon, he wants to remain ocularly faithful.
Yeah. We're gonna get a bunch of emails. It's just gonna say for Mike, and
if it's from Eric, I'm gonna be fucking pissed.
This is opening up like the possibilities of way too many pranks. I'm gonna get you to edit this out. That's.
Are you kidding? I thought this was a golden way to end.
Oh, this is a weird episode again. This is taking a turn I didn't expect. So, yes, that email address is graveyardshiftpod@gmail.com. So, but seriously, anything that you want to... oh, God, I feel so bad for saying this now because it's going to be taken in such a wrong way. We just want to hear from you. Anything you've got to say to us, go right ahead. And we really do, guys, we've been getting so many movie suggestions. We really appreciate it. It is great. Like, since episode 3 now, we've been going on the movies we've been covering are fan suggestions. And we've still got a ton more to go through. Like, they just keep coming. So thank you all so much for that. It makes us so happy to see that so many people have taken an interest in the show. We really do appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, so that is it for this week. So we've talked about what's coming up next week. And we've got something else that we can't talk about right now. We're waiting to see what happens with it, but we may have something big coming to the show, and hopefully we're going to be able to talk about that soon. But until then, I am Sheldon.
And I'm Mike.
And we'll see you next time on The Graveyard Shift. All right.
Yay.